Hi, this is John Hinn with the Pulsing Cinema and the movie of the day. Oh wow, this is a rare one, but a goodie. Confessions of a Serial Killer, directed by Mark Blair. IMDb credits this film as being a 1985 film, but I think in reality it came out in the early 90s. It was direct-to-video, released by New Horizons, and the cover art had this guy who looks like Hannibal Lecter with a face mask behind bars, and but the film is not a Hannibal Lecter ripoff. It's not a Silence of the Lambs ripoff. It is in fact actually a dramatization of the life and crimes of Henry Lee Lucas. In fact, it's a much more accurate film than Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, which is the most well-known kind of Henry Lee Lucas film that's out there. So, Confessions of a Serial Killer stars Robert A. Burns, who is most well known not as an actor, but as an art director. He was the art director on the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All the bones and the stuff inside the chainsaw house and the Leatherface mask, that's all Robert A. Burns. He was a real special, very creative character. And I mean, the stuff that he could just produce from his imagination, that was really stunning, earned him a place in horror film history. But he also is the art director on The Hills Have Eyes, The Howling, Reanimator, Tourist Trap. I mean, this guy worked on, you know, some of the heaviest, most fundamental, most well-known horror films of the 70s and 80s. But he was not really an actor. But he's perfect for this role of this Henry Lee Lucas type character, who is, he looks very much like Henry Lee Lucas. We see him, the opening scene of the film is him trying to stalk a victim on a late night, you know, where he's pretending that his car is, or no, he finds a woman whose car is broken down on the side of the road, and then there is a confrontation and a chase, and he is eventually captured. So the rest of the film is, as the title would suggest, a confession to the police, to a sheriff, an old sheriff who kind of buddies up to him here and plays a little bit of a good cop. So most of the film takes place in this interrogation room with Henry Lee Lucas just telling his life story and his journey into the life of becoming a serial killer. And, you know, perfect, you know, this guy, you know, it's a shame he didn't do much more acting, because this guy Robert A. Burns is just so he has this kind of flat affect, but then he has this kind of eccentricity, this kind of Texas charm and the eccentricity, you know, but then he relates these brutal crimes, you know, much in the same way that the real Henry Lee Lucas did. He seems like this very kind of low intelligence kind of just predator, just this human predator who is out there stalking the streets for his prey. So just like in real life, there is, like Henry Lee Lucas had his partner in crime, Ottis Toole. There is a character in Confessions of a Serial Killer that the Henry Lee Lucas character buddies up with. They rename him Moon Luton in the film, and then they meet up with this young woman who I think is a relationship to Moon Luton, and I think Ottis Toole. And because in real life, Henry Lee Lucas like married this young woman, teenager. I think it was his cousin or Ottis Toole's cousin, right? And then he killed her, and that's pretty much what happens in the film. And so she becomes complicit in these two guys' crimes, and she takes in and so it's basically just the Henry Lee Lucas story. If you've seen a documentary on Henry Lucas, it's basically this movie. You know, of course, the assaults and some of the other stuff I think is heavily dramatized. It looks very low budget. It's very you know, there's not a lot going on, and it's very simply shot. The soundtrack, there's not much of a soundtrack. It's not very melodic. It's a lot of synthesizer, slap bass, you know, like brr, 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 you know, like real ambient and low. Kind of reminds me of like Seinfeld. that like, but real slower and scarier, you know, that type of thing. But just totally appropriate for the subject matter. It's just such a creepy film, the low budget atmosphere and the creepy, you know, ambient bass score and everything, and along with the incredible performance of Robert A. Burns as this character who is just, there's this one scene where, you know, like the real Henry Lee Lucas, the policemen take the Robert Burns character out in order to point out where he buried the bodies. Which was a big thing with Henry Lee Lucas. He did a nationwide tour where he pointed out the places where he killed these people, and he confessed to a lot of crimes here. Maybe crimes he didn't even commit. He just got into the confession, and the local police in other states and areas really got into being able to solve their cold cases by just saying Henry Lee Lucas did it. So it became kind of a real nice reciprocal relationship between the serial killer and the crime bureaus across the United States. But there's this one scene where they're at a drive-in fast food place, and Henry Lee Lucas is like, you know, he smiles at the waitress that's giving him his meal. He's like, hey, you know, if I was free, I'd get you. And it's like, and it's just the creepiest, the chilling shit. I mean, Burns had this flat affect. In real life, he did as well. And he was an artist. He was eccentric, and he kind of brings those qualities to. And apparently, he really was like an eccentric. Like his house was just littered with movie props and stuff from Chainsaw. You know, it's just like you'd go in there and see stuff, this bone stuff from films like The Chainsaw and The Hills Have Eyes. You know, and just the iconic films he'd worked on. So there's these moments in the film which are just absolutely chilling, you know, just great stuff. An obscure film. Sadly, Robert A. Burns passed away. He was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and he took his own life around 2004, I believe, carbon monoxide poisoning. A very sad end to, you know, a really interesting artist who, touched, his work really touches me, especially the Chainsaw work, which is my favorite film, really. When it comes down to it, my favorite film is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. A true Texan, a true gentleman. From what I've heard, a really great man, and it's really great that he was able to participate and play a big part in this Confessions of a Serial Killer film, which I wish it could become a cult classic. I wish there could be some kind of critical reassessment of this thing. And I mean, the VHS, as far as I know, is the only U.S. release of this film. Maybe a Laserdisc release. I doubt it, though. I think it was VHS only. It's been released in VHS worldwide and in other markets. There is a copy on YouTube, but I think it's edited. I think it's cut. I think I tried to watch parts, but it was like very obviously cut, because there are some pretty difficult, really rough scenes in this film. I mean, there's a rape late at night, like a home invasion with that Moon Luton and this Henry Lee Lucas character engage in, and it includes a sexual assault, and it's not really overly explicit. It's not pornographic. But it's just the implication. In fact, it's much less, in some ways, I think, much less explicit than what was in Henry, which was, you know, pretty explicit and violent and full of special effects. And all. There's no special effects in this film. It's much like the original Chainsaw in that the horror is all very much implied, but it's just the performance and the way it's shot and edited. And you know, the kind of the incredible performance of the actors, the victims and the villains, and you see things that didn't really exist. You're just kind of covering your eyes, and so that's, I mean, it really is a very strong film. I mean, I've watched it a couple times here, and it is a low budget film. There are some deficits, you know, as far as. But I mean, it sets out to what it achieves, and it achieves what it sets out to do. I'm sorry. I mean, I get real excited about this movie, talking about it, because it's a movie that really people don't talk about, and I wish they would more so, because I mean it's a very simple movie, but it's probably one of my favorite serial killer films, and I think I like it way more than Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. So there it is, Confessions of a Serial Killer, a really great movie.